Alrighty guys, let's talk about the DF. My oh my, what a pleasant surprise. I have to talk about the most relevant truck that I've tested, which is a 2024 high output Ford. So that's the newest thing I've owned, and prior to this, and that's what I can compare it with. This being a 2025. The after treatment is significantly different. That's something else people don't talk about. I'd like to make a few videos on it. But the DEF usage is probably 6 times, if not 7 times less than the Ford. It is significantly less. I know my 23 Ford went through a lot of DEF. I know my 24 Ford went through a lot of DEF. It was on par with the 5th gen Rams. This thing is a whole different animal. So in a situation like today, towing 24,000 pounds behind the truck at mid to high 60s, the Ford would go through about half a tank. 350 miles. That's about half tank. A lot of times I couldn't get 1,000 miles out of a full tank of DF. Now keep in mind, Ford is super annoying with their alerts and stuff, but my average was 500 miles. When I was towing heavy, my average was 500 miles between fuels. That was annoying. Like, it was bad. Now we're talking about the extreme scale, right? As far as driving around fully loaded according to the truck. When the trucks are empty, so this 25 versus the 24 Ford empty, I almost feel like this one goes through more depth than the Ford does when they're empty. But when they're loaded and heavily loaded, yeah, there's just no comparison. Ford just chucks that DF down. This thing just kind of moves along. To put it in perspective, that gauge was 7/8 full. That gauge right there when I started my day. I'm about 320, 330 miles into my day towing. Half of it was half the weight, and the other half of the mileage was 24,000. Yeah. I would definitely have to fuel up on a day like today with the Ford. That's all it burnt. I haven't refilled nothing. 320, 330 miles later, I'm an eighth down. That is crazy. It barely takes more def, and I mean barely takes more def loaded than when it is empty. It reminds me a lot of the 4th gen, so this is roughly how the 4th gen Rams were as far as their def consumption. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's a whole different system, and I need to do a video on that system. I like what Ram did. I've been watching the parameters on this thing, and I don't like that Ram EGRs a lot. Ford puts it on the DF on the exhaust to take care of a lot of things the way they do their science. But Ram, on the other hand, their EGR is opened a lot more than the Fords. So you give and you take a little bit. I'm just kind of jumping the gun and telling you where the issue is, or where the solution lies. I should stay positive. But yeah, I'll wrap it up here. Well, let me throw this in. The 24s go through a lot more depth than this 25 has. So that's the best way I can put it. 24 Ram goes through a lot more depth than this 25 does. And the 24 Ford that I've owned, goes through significantly more depth. Well, a little bit more depth than the 5th gens. But in comparison to this, it's night and day, guys. Anyways, may the good Lord bless you. May you all mighty fine day. Ciao, bye.